Welcome to The Secret to Becoming a World-Class Musician, Part 2. This will be a video podcast, obviously, but there will also be the dialogue on the blog, so you can read it or watch the video.
Awesome. We've got awesome, I'm going to say awesome a million times in this show today, in this blog post. We've got amazing things to share today, and we're super excited. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks. And Part 1 of The Secret to Becoming a World-Class Musician focused on the fact that there appears to be a shared culture among these musicians.
Totally.
And so we reached out to some of these incredible musicians that we've had the privilege of working with and asked them what their secret was. Essentially, what are the essential habits of world-class musicians like themselves?
Right. And what we found was as we got their great nuggets of advice back, they kind of fell into what seemed like 5 different categories, and so that's what we've kind of done here. You'll see, and we'll kind of walk you through that. There's 5 different categories of their awesome advice. And also, let's just get something straight. Every single one of these musicians are world class. I mean, they are so killer at what they do, and this advice that they've given blows my mind because of how humble they are, but just how amazing they are. If you don't know who, as we read the name, if you're not familiar with the name, I'm sure you're familiar with what they've played on.
Right.
But go check them out as we go through these things. The list of who they've worked with and what they've done is super extensive, and they're amazing.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk about everything they've worked on today, but please click on the links on their names and go check them out.
Totally. Thanks.
Let's get to it.
Cool. I'll take the first one. It says, one of the most important things I've noticed that distinguishes the best players is how much they listen to what everyone else is playing. Lesser players are just zoned into what they themselves are doing. That was from Rob Honey, and he plays bass mainly, but he does so much more than that. But I'm guilty of that. I am typically zoned into just whatever I'm doing, which I think maybe a lot of us are. So what an art to be able to zone in and listen to everybody else as well.
Yeah, and this is truly important even in the studio.
For sure.
When you have a whole band in recording together. The next quote echoes the same sentiment. It's by pianist Mel Shore. Never stop listening.
Other than practicing, networking, purchasing the right gear, and studying incessantly, always listen to the latest and greatest musicians on record. That's Jay Lawrence. He is a percussionist and drummer, jazz drummer, and just phenomenal.
Yeah, incredible musician. The next, and disclaimer, this is a relative of ours. This is our Aunt Fee. We call her Aunt Fee. It's Felicia Ray Gibbons. She's a session vocalist and vocal coach.
So killer.
I value the essential habit of listening, especially the kind of listening that is necessary for interpreting and creating, which primarily involves the heart and connecting to emotions. Dedication to practice and hard work is essential in order to evolve and expand any skill or essential habit.
Awesome.
Let's spend 2 seconds with this one because I love this quote, and I love the fact that she's talking about listening with your heart. This is what making music is all about.
Totally.
Just emoting, helping the song have emotion.
And it's something
helping other people feel something.
Totally. And it's something that we see with all of these musicians and so many more musicians that when they come in, one of their number one priorities is to emote, to bring out the emotion, whatever they're playing. And that's the sign of, in my opinion, an incredible musician.
Yeah.
Darren Bradford's the next one who gave us some great advice. He's a woodwind player, and we've yet to find something he doesn't play, really. Actually, he owns like 130 instruments, and he plays all of them proficiently. He said, I think the most consistent thing I have done since I was quite young, not being endowed with absolute pitch, is to try to develop my ear, to hear things before I played them, and to come closer to playing in tune. Crazy. Thank you, Darren.
Thanks,
That's
Darren.
Awesome.
This next category, so to say, the first one was listening. Most of those quotes focused on listening. The next one is passion. This is from a Nashville guitar player, great guitar player, Guthrie Trapp. Thanks for sharing, Guthrie. Stay true to yourself. Don't do anything you don't want to do just for the quick buck. Don't try to be like someone else. Do follow your heart and find your artistic voice. Find out what makes you happy and go after it with a vengeance.
I love that.
Awesome quote.
Vengeance, that's great. Nicole Pinnell, she is a cellist here. She comes in all the time, and we're just such a pleasure to have her coming in on such a regular basis. She said, "To be passionately engaged in the pursuit of excellence is one of the great joys of being a musician." And this quote is simply the epitome of her playing.
Yeah, this is
totally
her.
Great.
And this is why we love working with her. She plays with so much passion.
Totally.
Trumpet great John Fumo said, "When I reach for a new level or try to advance any part of my playing, I work on it every day for at least 3 months. Consistency and practice helps me." And John's touring with Neil Diamond right now, actually. He's doing a great job.
He's touring. I really shouldn't go into that.
He's touring in America today.
Yeah. Okay. Michael Dowdle, he said, he's a guitarist, speed is this kills me, what he says actually. So I really need to emphasize and listen close. Speed is a natural byproduct of accuracy. Craziness. So you asked him about some clarity,
I asked him
right?
to give us a little context with this, and this is what he said. He said, "I play it slow and precise, and it gets easier with repetition, and eventually I can really rip."
And he can really rip.
But, I think this applies in the studio as well. You see the proficiency of these kind of players, and their accuracy is what makes the session flow so quickly.
It totally is. I mean, when they come in and they're prepared and they've spent the time beforehand.
Yeah.
It's that whole idea of the theory that, you put 10,000 hours into whatever you're doing.
Totally.
And then you come and you are able to rip, or you're able to play like a metronome and just, you're hitting every downbeat, you're playing the right groove, whatever it is, it all ties in. So it's just an amazing piece of advice.
One last thing. Most of these musicians come in to the studio and they're sight reading. It's music they have never before played, and so this is got to happen in 1 take or 2 takes, and so it's incredible what they do.
It takes the technique that these players have.
Yeah. Next one is by another guitar great, Rich Dixon. He said, I strive to discover and learn as much as I can about music, practical theory, etc., and put it to use on my instrument." I think this is kind of a funny quote from a guitar player, because you guys all know the joke. I mean, how do you get a guitar player to stop playing? Put music in front of them. And I mean, it's so funny that this is what he focuses on, which is probably rightly so, being a guitar player. But anyway, awesome quote.
Yeah, it shows in his playing. Rick Baptist, great LA trumpet player that we have the pleasure of working with, he said, "Keep your concentration level at 100% every time you play your instrument." And that shows in his playing as well. That is him. And we feel that is not only him, but that is, if we took out every piece of advice, the heart of that, the concentration, being there at 100% every time you play, that might just be the thing to work on and to become, to let that become who you are as a musician, right? I mean, that's so important.
The next one falls into the category of work ethic. This is by Jocelyn Petty-Poole. Great vocalist, just a real soulful vocalist.
I think soul should be added to her name somewhere. Jocelyn, the soul lady Petty-Poole, or Jocelyn Petty, the soul woman Poole, or just soul.
We'll ask her about that.
Yeah.
One essential habit I live by is preparation. I probably have my own crazy rituals I do, but the more I invest into preparing for a performance, recording session, or writing session, the more authentically present I am. Authentically present. I am able to truly be in the moment and let everything go.
So for me personally, I can smell a car salesman a mile away.
Yeah.
And it's because of that, not that inauthenticity, that lack of authenticity.
Yeah.
And so as a musician too, I mean, we sense that. You can tell when you're listening to a record, you can tell when it's just, oh, this was made in a factory versus, oh, this was made by people who truly love music.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we're more forgiving towards it doesn't have to necessarily be perfect. know, I think Stevie Wonder, like you know, it may not always be perfectly on the downbeat, but it's always got the groove,
Yeah.
and it always keeps me coming back for more. So
I love that.
Authenticity is just so important.
I'm going to hang that on my wall, by the way. Authentically present. That is awesome,
So
Jocelyn.
cool.
Thank you.
This next one I'm super excited about. One of my all-time heroes, keyboard and synth player Corey Henry. He's a Grammy Award winner with Snarky Puppy. Go check out Snarky Puppy, an
They're
amazingly
awesome.
talented group that expands and then, you know, shrinks back up. And it's always just, you know, there's a lot of come and go in that group, but they're great. He said simply, work hard, very, very hard. So thank you, Corey. That's awesome.
And this next quote echoes that exact sentiment. It's by violinist Meredith Campbell. Hard work trumps talent.
Period. Yeah, killer. Alan Kaplan, trombone player, great LA trombone player, and just one of the nicest guys you'll meet. He said, when you show up to a job, always make sure you are prepared. Have your chops in shape for anything that might come up. If you are playing any doubles, own them. No disclaimers for an instrument that isn't your strong suit. Listen to what is going on around you so you don't have to slow things down by asking unnecessary questions. Sounds like he's just saying, like, don't be the rap musician, like be that the authentically present musician.
Yeah, exactly.
That is owning your performance, owning your gig.
And that is Alan. Alan comes to a session, and he does not slow down the session ever.
Yeah, he's
I
there.
mean, he's the last guy to make a cack or anything. It's awesome.
It's cool.
Next one is, great musicians are open to all genres of music and are able to find the essential parts that make each genre unique. That's by drummer Todd Sorensen. Thanks, Todd.
David Halliday, a great saxophone player, said, always try to serve the music. By that I mean think about the style of music you are playing and the setting or context in which you are playing it and embrace them. In other words, if it's a pop gig, play pop. If it's a modern jazz gig, play modern jazz. If it's your own music, play what you want. And then he added a second thing, and a second little quote, and it said, groove is king. David, to make a really long story short, he came into the studio when we were recording a song when we were younger.
It was our first record we were working on.
Yeah, and we had him playing a solo on one of the songs, and he wasn't getting the emotion quite right yet. He wasn't feeling that music. He wasn't quite there yet, and so he ended up turning the lights all the way off, all trying to get it, you know, all trying to make sure he was lined up on the mic correctly was out the window because we couldn't see anything, but he got the mood just right, and he was willing to do whatever it took to get there. And
yeah, we got to play some of that sound clip. It's awesome.
Totally killer, yeah.
Thanks for tuning in today. If you want to be a world-class musician, this is you. What we talked about today, the quotes we gave you today, this is you if you want to be one of these kind of musicians.
And this can be all of us, I think, because everything that's in here, nobody really talked about, like, oh, you need, you know, one of the keys to being a great musician is being born that way. You know, like, they didn't say that. What they said was, you need to spend the time and put in the effort to develop the gifts you've already been given. And so it sounds possible. These are students still. They're still working at it, and so it's kind of encourages me in kind of a weird way that I just want to keep doing that too, because I can progress like they have.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in today. Please share this, like it, and if you think it can be helpful to somebody else, you know, let them know. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks.